In this video, I want to cover something that new drivers sometimes do, and it's kind of funny how we kind of talk ourselves into a scenario, like we'll stress out about something. And this is probably holds true for a lot of things in life, is if you overthink something and you overthink about what you're about to do, then it becomes a bigger deal than what it needs to be. So here we're coming up to make a left turn with the student, and we can see as we're sitting here, 4 circle lights, so it's a advanced turn signal. We're not assuming we're going to get one, but given the fact that we've been here for some time, chances are we will get one. And so what's going to happen is, in a moment's time, you'll see our green arrow will come on, and the student is not really staying on the 8 ball here. You see, look how long it takes for us to get going. Sure, we want to have a safe following distance from the car in front of us at all times, but if you're in a turn lane and you have an advanced turn signal, that arrow is going to stay on for 10-15 seconds, depending on the size of the intersection. And so we don't have the luxury of waiting till we've built up a following distance in front of us and then to start going, because the car behind us also wants to take advantage of this arrow if it's possible. So let me back this up just slightly here, right to the point where the light changes. So we're at, the time is 20 seconds into the video, so it literally starts now. So let's see, 1, 2. So it's about 3 seconds into the light where you can kind of see us starting to roll forward. Now, given the fact that this light is only on for 10 seconds, that's a good chunk of the advanced turn signal that we're eating up here. And so then I think what's happening is student is not realizing that it is an advanced turn signal. So possibly they weren't paying attention to light, so they got going a little bit late, or they weren't sure if they have the right of way. And this is something I always tell students. I'm like, look, if you have a green arrow, would it make sense for the city to give the through traffic a green light at the same time? And they're like, no. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. So I'm not saying as soon as you get a green arrow, just go for it, right? That's also silly, because sometimes you'll be in a situation where there's someone in the intersection that couldn't finish their maneuver in time, and so our green arrow might come on and they still need to finish off this turn. So always scan the intersection, but when you get the green arrow, don't hesitate too much, right? So when it's time to go, go. And so what ends up happening is, now instead of kind of going into the waiting position on the yellow arrow, because we're nowhere near having entered into the intersection, we decide, or the student decides, that we're just going to go for it. And in fact, now they decide, hey, I should probably do this really quick and give it a lot of gas. And so we're kind of going into this lane and then losing our control a bit and then shifting back in here. So long story short, this could have, or is usually, just a very plain, boring turn, right? So regardless of whether you have an advanced arrow or whether the situation is clear and you can just proceed to make the turn if it's a regular green light, the speed of the turn doesn't change all that much, right? So for an intersection of this size, I would say normally about 20 to 25 kilometers an hour. Any faster than 25 kilometers an hour, and you see what ends up happening here, which is we come in and we're like, we're going to go into this lane, we're going to go over to the left, and then we'll straighten out. You shouldn't ever be in that situation. So if you ever find that you have to suddenly steer, chances are you're doing it wrong, chances are you're doing it quick, so you need to just slow down. What would have helped with that is if the moment we got the green arrow, we start going with the flow of traffic, and we can over time build this distance up, but right now it would not be the time for us to delay too much to make this turn. So hopefully that clarifies a few things about making a left turn at an advanced turn signal, and also kind of what speed to take this turn at. Now, the other thing again is we need to go into the first available lane. I'm not sure, let me just see what the cars in front of us did. So they did go into that first available lane, which is surprising because you don't see a lot of people do that. You see a lot of people just go wide into this lane. So it's nice to see that this vehicle did the right thing before switching over. And we might as well just cover a few other things here. As we're coming in here, we can see this vehicle is trying to get into this turn lane here, and they're doing it at the expense of going on to the yellow line. Really, there's no need for this, people. Like, we're coming in and there's traffic here, so you know their light is red. Remember, we had an advanced turn signal, so this light here is going to be red. And you know, like, how much time are you saving here? And so what sometimes ends up happening, especially on this road about a block away, you'll see people kind of come in completely into our lane as we're approaching them, and it's like you're asking almost for a head-on collision, right? Why? Because you want to save 10 seconds going into a turn lane. So please don't do that. And let's see if there's anything else of value in this footage that we can talk about. We should probably talk about this sign here, because you've probably seen it in your Learn to Drive Smart book. It's telling you, and I usually ask students, I'm like, what is this? They're like, I don't know, is it a playground zone? And it's like, well, it's a person, they don't have a ball in their hand, and they have a line underneath. So it's telling you there's a crosswalk up ahead. And let's see where that crosswalk is. So we're coming into this turn lane. And notice how the student is coming over this turn lane, right? So very often examiners will take issue with coming into your turn lane a bit late. So what should have happened is we should have done our lane change a little bit sooner, and so that we could kind of come in better into this lane, because we're literally going from this lane now diagonally into this lane, and this is not how it should be done. So we should have signaled and checked sooner and drifted over into the other lane a little bit sooner, so that we could be set up nicely. And so you see the perforated lines here on the ground, and this would be kind of the trajectory we're coming in at. This is one of the things that we always have to work with students in making sure that, you know, when you have an exit lane or you have a turn lane coming up, we try as best as we can to come in at the beginning of this turn lane, so that the car behind us knows what's going on and we're not impeding their movement for too long. So we're coming in right now, you see we're going over this solid white line, and then here, sometimes students forget to do the second shoulder check, right? So there was a shoulder check for going into the turn lane. There's another shoulder check for the actual turn itself that should take place. Watch the replay of this video and kind of, you know, put yourself in the driver's seat and see, how would you come up to this intersection? What speed would you flow into the intersection with, right? And so what I want to leave you with is, I need to come into the intersection with the speed at which, if this arrow goes to yellow and I'm not in the intersection, I can actually make a smooth stop and go into my waiting position and just wait for that oncoming traffic to flow through, waiting for a safe gap to make my turn. So just because you have a green arrow doesn't mean you should just floor it and try to make the turn. We're still always going to come into the intersection with the same strategy. I'll come in, hopefully it'll be clear when I get there and I can make the turn, but if not, that's okay. I always have my plan of, okay, I'll stop in the waiting position. So I'll leave it there, and I'll see you in the next one.